And there are many benefits of moral outrage, but there are also many costs. So the benefits can fall into two broad categories. The first category of benefit is social benefits. So when we express outrage about some kind of wrongdoing, that teaches others that that kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated, and it can motivate other people to behave morally so that they can avoid getting shamed or punished for breaking the rules. The other kind of benefit that moral outrage brings about is personal. Moral outrage broadcasts to the rest of your social group that you are the kind of person who's not likely to break the rules. So these two benefits of expressing outrage have to be balanced against the costs of outrage.
The given lecture was on moral outrage. According to the lecture, the speaker was discussing moral outrage benefits. She mentioned social benefits, which teach others that some kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated, and it can motivate other people to behave morally. She also talked about moral outrage, which broadcasts to the rest of your social group who is not likely to break the rules. Overall, we can say that the lecture was very useful.
As Emerson once put it, in the minds of geniuses, we find, once more, our own neglected thoughts. It's almost certain that people who have devoted themselves to self-honesty and self-observation have an above-average chance of meeting with incomprehension, irritation, censorship, or boredom when they attempt to share the data from their own minds, frankly, in company. Their thoughts, it might be on politics or architecture, family life or sexuality, will sound more threatening, more intense, oblique, or tender than is allowed. That feels lonely if one's in the mood to frame things like this. There are simply fewer people at large committed to self-honesty and self-observation, and therefore up for exchanging notes on what it's truly like to be alive. Yet there is one resource that is exceptionally well suited to addressing the feelings of disconnection liable to be felt by the emotionally intelligent: art. Works of art are humanity's secret diary, records of all that could not be said in regular social contexts, but which have found a home in the more intimate, honest communication that can take place between an artwork and its audience.
The given lecture was on neglected thoughts. According to the lecture, people who have devoted themselves to self-honesty and self-observation get the chance of meeting with comprehension and irritation. Moreover, he mentioned that one resource that is exceptionally well suited to address the feelings of disconnection liable to be felt by the emotionally intelligent. Overall, we can say that the lecture was very useful.
The modern fantasy about, wow, business is changing so quickly, you've got to keep morphing and changing, updating your brand, getting a new visual identity, all of those things, they're just bad. Bad. Don't do them. Why? It's because you interrupt habit. So rather than a consumer thinking about, oh, wow, I'm loyal to, let's say, Tide. I'm loyal to Tide detergent. I really should buy it. It's actually that person's subconscious saying, you know, the most comfortable thing to do, the thing we in your subconscious are most confident of is that thing that worked for us before. So please don't think about buying something else. Tide's been around for 76 years. And it has what we call cumulative advantage. Cumulative advantage is what you increasingly build as the customer becomes more and more comfortable with using your product or service. Each time they use it and get the benefits they wish, you get more cumulative advantage that causes the subconscious to say, I'm totally comfortable with this, and I would be uncomfortable if we did something else. That's the win of cumulative advantage.
The given lecture was on upgrading the brand. According to the lecture, He mentioned that the detergent Tide's been around for 76 years, and it has what we call cumulative advantage. Each time people use it and get the benefits they want. He also mentioned cumulative advantage. Overall, we can say that the lecture was very useful.
According to the literature on reality monitoring, stories based on imagined experiences are qualitatively different from those based on real experiences. This suggests that creating a false story about a personal topic takes work and results in a different pattern of language use. A technology known as linguistic text analysis has helped to identify 4 such common patterns in the subconscious language of deception. First, liars reference themselves less when making deceptive statements. They write or talk more about others, often using the third person to distance and disassociate themselves from their lie. Which sounds more false? Absolutely no party took place at this house, or I didn't host a party here. Second, liars tend to be more negative, because on a subconscious level, they feel guilty about lying. For example, a liar might say something like, "Sorry, my stupid phone battery died. I hate that thing." Third, liars typically explain events in simple terms, since our brains struggle to build a complex lie. Judgment and evaluation are complex things for our brains to compute. As a U.S. president once famously insisted, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman." And finally, even though liars keep descriptions simple, they tend to use longer and more convoluted sentence structure, inserting unnecessary words and irrelevant but factual sounding details in order to pad the lie.
The given lecture was on reality monitoring literature. According to the speaker, imagined tales vary from genuine ones. Firstly, the liars make false assertions with less self-reference. He also discussed that liars use simple words to describe things. They tend to use longer and more complicated sentences, adding unnecessary words and irrelevant, but fact-sounding details to make the lie sound more real. Overall, we can say that the lecture was very useful.
Work comes to be the center around which the world turns. The human beings start to see themselves chiefly as workers, and the entirety of life becomes more and more work, or work-like. To see this, we can begin to examine a number of what I might call tightening conditions. So the first condition would be the centrality of work. We come to think that work is actually the center, and everything else begins to turn around it. That we are preparing for work, that we are preparing to leave work, and this is happening all the way around the world. Meanwhile, we're adjusting our schedules, the rest of our lives, so that they are turning about it. So that would be the first condition. The second condition is subordination, that everything else in life comes to seem as if it's subordinate to you and to be put in the service of work. We can think of sleeping. Right? The idea is that we wish to sleep well today in order to be focused and prepared for work. That when we're at work, we wish to be as productive as possible. So sleep becomes that which is an instrument in the service of productivity. And we can play that game with all sorts of different instances. The third condition is the resemblance claim. It seems as if everything else in life comes to resemble work more and more. So you can think of on a day off, you're wanting to be as productive as possible, thinking about how much you got done. You can begin to think about all the ways in which you plan and schedule time with children. The terms that begin to mark out our lives, even when we're not actually working, sound more and more work-like. And the last condition, I think, is the most intense, and that's what I might call cultural forgetfulness. We've come to almost forget that there was a time in which work was not the center of the world, that there are other ways of life that precede the modern world in which work was a part of life, but was not the focus of life. We find that that's still true today with other cultures, some other cultures, and we forget that there could actually be a time when work would not be that around which the rest of the world turns.
The given lecture was on how work is important. According to the lecture, the speaker talked about the 3 conditions. The first condition would be that work is the most important thing. Subordination is the second condition, and all other aspects of life begin to seem inferior to and subservient to work. The third condition is the claim of similarity, and everything else in life seems to become more and more like work. Overall, we can say that the lecture was very useful.